Hi, I'm Wendy Hewlett, crime fiction author. I'm living out my dream of spending a year in my birth city, immersing myself in its amazing culture and history, and maybe writing a few novels too. Morning. I'm on an adventure this morning. Gonna sneak through here in the stone wall. I'm into the woods now. Today I'm going to be visiting Craigmillar Castle, and it holds a little bit of significance in my family. My two older sisters used to live not far from here. My grandparents had a house close to here, and they used to come over here and play as children. What a cool place to be able to play. It was before the historic environment, Scotland began to care for this property, Craigmillar Castle, so you could just come over and roam about inside of it and not have any worries. So that's what they did. Of course, now you have to pay an admission fee, and you can't just play around in it as if it was yours. But that would be nice. That would be the tree fort any day, wouldn't it? Having your own castle. Anyway, it's a lovely pass through here. I'm probably going to be walking for about 5 or 10 minutes here to get to the castle, but this used to be outside of the Edinburgh city limits, of course, but now it's within it. So the land was bought by the Preston family, I think, in 1375. And the oldest part of the castle, which is an L-shaped tower house, was built somewhere between the late 1400s and the late 1300s and the late 1400s. So that's a pretty wide span of time. And the reason they don't have a more targeted time frame for the age of that is that there's never been an archaeological study done here, which is tremendous, really. Because there's quite a lot of land here, and then the castle itself, dating that far back, imagine there'd be a lot of discoveries to be made, and there's been very little. There was a skeleton found upright inside the castle around 1813. There was a crossbow discovered just, I guess, by accident in a tunnel underneath the ground. And there's one other object found. I can't remember what that was. Somewhere around mid-1900s. But quite fascinating. So there's different parts of the castle that are aged differently, of course. So we'll have a wander around and see how it goes. So the Prestons, this wasn't their main home. They lived right within the old town Edinburgh, back when they would have been dumping their chamber pots out the windows. So this was kind of like an urban retreat or a country retreat. They would come out here. And one of its most famous visitors was Mary, Queen of Scots. Apparently she spent quite a bit of time here, but there's only actually 2 documented visits. One was just for a couple of days. And the other one was in, I think it was November 1566. She came out here for 2 weeks. Apparently it was to kind of heal from depression. And she'd had a rough year. That was the year that her secretary, David Reedsy, was murdered. And she gave birth to her only son, James. And then in October of that year, she fell quite ill and nearly died. So in November, she came here. She was here about a week, and apparently she fell ill again. But it was also during that time that she was here, her half-brother was here with her and a few other people, that apparently they hatched the plan to murder Mary's husband. And there's no proof of that, of course. There's no proof that Mary was in on it. But that's one of the rumors. Lord Darnley was his name. Imagine being a kid and just being able to come over here and play in that. Wouldn't that be fabulous? I was worried it was going to be really cold and windy here today, but there's not much wind at all. And the views from here are spectacular. There's the Firth of Forth. Arthur's Seat's over there. I can imagine them coming out here to... Apparently they hunted grouse and archery, that sort of thing. Amazing. I've just checked in at the visitor center, and one of the advantages coming, I guess, on November 19th, in the middle of a pandemic, is I'm the only visitor here right now. So I'll be the only one inside, other than the guides. Let's have it turn around there. So, but apparently, even in the height of tourist season, when we're not having a pandemic, it doesn't get very busy here. There's not a lot of people come to visit it. And it's only £6. And, 3 miles outside of Edinburgh city centre. So it's lovely, a few hours wandering around the castle and not big crowds. So what a great way to spend the day. Not big crowds today for sure, because I'm the only one here. The castle has stood here since the early 15th century, when the Prestons of Craigmillar raised the mighty tower house, which still dominates the site. This was later surrounded by outer walls enclosing buildings and defended by rounded towers pierced by gun loops. The castle was sold to Sir John Gilmore in 1660 and abandoned a century later. I think it fell into ruins by around 1775. So this will be the outer wall. Have a look at this. Hello, kitty. Have you got a castle? This fine old ruin, one of the most perfectly preserved late medieval castles in Scotland. Craigmillar stood witness to events which changed history. I have a guard at the gate. Like any building lived in for over 350 years, Craigmillar Castle was altered and added to many times. It is not completely understood, and many of the alterations cannot be accurately dated. (1400) Craigmillar Castle was built between the early 15th and mid 17th centuries. The rough wooing, that was one of the documented times when Mary Queen of Scots was here. It says here, the rough wooing was a period when England tried to enforce the terms of Treaty of Greenwich, which under the Scots had agreed to Mary Queen of Scots to Edward, Prince of Wales. I think she was just a toddler at the time of that agreement. And this is several of Mary Queen of Scots' advisors signed the Craigmillar Bond, an agreement to kill her husband Henry Stuart, Lord Darnley. So this is the oldest part, this tower house here. It's a goldfish pond in the shape of a P for Preston. Apparently you can still see the outline of it. There's gardens here. You can see still some of that apparently. So this right here is that doorway up there. More gardens over there. A little chapel. There's some really cool coat of arms above the door and things like that. One up there. That one is. And you see the Abbey. There's kitty cat back again. Wonder if I find many mice in this house. See the keyhole gun turrets there. Apparently some of them are original in design, and some of them were created later. The original was just the slot there, and the bottom part with the circle there was a little after. That looks like it was probably done later, right? But there's some that are original, and that gives them an idea of when this building was built. Water of life. This well was the castle's main supply of fresh water. People could come from the castle through a side door, which has now been blocked up, to draw water. Are you my escort? Hey? Hello, darling. Are you just gonna escort me around, make sure I'm keeping in line, hey? So that wee chapel was built, I think, in the early 1500s, which apparently was unusual to build a chapel so close to the castle. And it is the burial place for some of the Gilmore family who owned the castle after the Prestons. They bought it in 1660. It's cool how you can see how the roof was up there. There's a few epitaphs in here. Ian Gilmore, 1926 to 2007. Wow. Carolyn Montague Douglas Scott, 1927-2004. Robert Gordon Gilmore, 1857 to 1939, and his wife Susan Ligon, 1870 to 1961. That would be them there. That's cool. Even though they had let it go by long before then, they've come back here to rest, which is really very cool. That looks like water runoff came out there or something. It's got that crest on it. Seems to be the inner courtyard. I think that's maybe the Preston family crest. Two lions, a unicorn. More unicorns down the bottom. Unicorn, by the way, is the national animal of Scotland. This is quite cool. In November 1566, Mary Queen of Scots rode into this courtyard, seeking to stay with her loyal supporter, Sir Simon Preston, at a time of terrible stress. After falling ill, she remained here to recuperate. During Mary's illness, her lords are said to have hatched a plan to get rid of her vain, violent, and ambitious husband, Henry Lord Darnley. Their scheme would go down as one of the most notorious plots in Scottish history, known as the Craigmillar Bond. It would shape Mary's life and end Darnley's. So that's the blocked doorway that would have led out to the side yard there by the chapel where they could access the well. That would have been maybe a kitchen at one time, with the fireplaces and that. This is just inside one of the turrets. I don't know that they ever had a... Well, actually the castle was taken over at one point. And Henry VIII was not too happy when the Scots refused to honor the agreement for Queen Mary to marry his son. And they seized this place. This is the prison. Cellar. You might have had your wines down here, maybe. Looks like it used to be a staircase. Closed off now. And this apparently is a prison. At least you had a little bit of light coming in. That looks like it might have been a privy. Little seat there. Not bad as far as medieval prison accommodations go. Although I wouldn't want to stay down here. This was once the castle's bakehouse. Bread was the staple food, would have been served with every meal. Not would have been the oven. Courtyard out there. This was the castle's kitchen from the mid-1500s. It was built during repairs after English troops burnt and destroyed it. Craigmillar. That would have been when King Henry VIII was occupying it. Didn't leave it in great repair, did they? Well, there's a light coming in anyway. And this would have been the fireplace there, so this would have been one floor up here and another down below. No balcony. Chamber, it says down there. Into the Preston coat of arms over there again. Very worn.